right to our first panel now and dive a little deeper into the concepts Andrew has covered. So this is the case for TEEs, and our moderator is Zoe Meckbach. She will come up now and introduce the panelists. If you know that you're on this panel, please also step up.
Moderate this first panel here today. We will keep this more high level, the case of TE, because we have a second panel where we go more into the technicalities of trusted execution environments. And we have all the speakers in the background, but Alex, CEO of Secret Labs, Marvin, CEO of Hash Forest, the company behind, or the company is building Phala network, and we have Harry, technical product manager of Oasis. So great speakers, experts, because all of you guys are building on TEs. And as you just saw the great discussion of Andrew, in the overview, all of you guys are using TEs, but not MPC or not FHE, so totally TE-based networks. And before we, actually just, we can directly jump in, and if you guys, do we actually have a second microphone? Maybe we can get this set up while we ask the first question. Familiar with most of what everyone is building, but if you would like to summarize, what are you actually building on TEs? How is your network utilizing trusted execution environments?
Sure, thank you, Zoe. Hey everyone. So, Secret Network is a layer 1 blockchain based on the Cosmos ecosystem, and our runtime is running the contracts inside TEs. So we have a set of scores of validators, each running a compatible hardware. When a node is started up, it sends it at a station to the network. It gets verified, and then it gets the shared secret, and then it can decrypt the blockchain state, and it can receive contract calls, execute them inside the TE, and when necessary, return the results or write them back to the state. So basically, it's a layer 1 blockchain with just all the execution happening inside the TE, thus providing full confidentiality, confidential execution under all the limitations that we just heard about from Andrew.
For Phala, I think the technical architecture for how infra works is purpose-centric design, right? So we have a goal first, and the network should build around the goal. So for Phala, our original idea is that we want to have permissionless, accessible, and verifiable cloud computation, so that the Web3 people and use cases doesn't need to use Amazon or Amazon Lambda, and this is how this is the key factors impact how we build a system at Phala network. And we are lucky that we already have that. It's already alive 2 years ago. So we have the thing.
So I think Alex has done a pretty good job of introducing smart contracts in trusted execution. And I think that the only thing I can add to that really is if you look back at the early days of Ethereum, and we now have a modal shift from transparent contracts. From before that, they weren't really contracts, to now we have ZK, and that's really interesting. And now we have trusted execution. So I'm trying to look at what kind of tools can we do that give people 99% of what they need to use the entire trusted execution stack without having to go through the nitty-gritty and the architecture themselves. And through the making it much more accessible, I think that's going to really bring out some interesting things that none of us foresaw before. So that's what we're doing at the moment.
We unfortunately only have one mic, so we have to do it like this. So you gave the overall introduction, but how do you guys differentiate from each other, right? I mean, there are technicalities that maybe if you want to touch on. There's the key breach mitigations. Andrew also once wrote an interesting paper about it. If you want to get a bit into these details, because if you're all offer the same, how are you actually different?
So I think that's a great question. I think Phala has a kind of a different model. You can talk about, but Secret and Oasis are kind of similar, at least from what I understand. Oasis has more different runtimes, also EVM. We only have Cosm Wasm for the moment. So in terms of breaches and potential breaches, so for Secret right now, mitigation is just re-encrypting the blockchain. And the worst thing that can happen with TEs when they're breached is actually the loss of privacy, right? It's very important because with ZK-based systems like Zcash, for instance, if there is a bug or a breach, then the funds can be infinitely printed or stolen, or which is catastrophic. With TEs, like the worst thing that can happen is the loss of privacy, which can be mitigated or fixed for the future by changing the network key after patching. So we have a roadmap of solving this. Like the possible solutions would be, in my view, using multiple enclaves in one network, because then even if one of them is breached, the probability that two are breached at the same time is much lower. And there are also some MPC schemes which we might discuss a little bit later. Yeah, so that's our take.
Yeah, I'll try to be brief. Of course, the original final network design is also inspired by Mitigation, and yeah, thanks to Tong. So, yeah, I'll highlight some key features. So we treat the high performance in a very high priority while we are building the network infrastructures, because our goal is to provide Amazon live services. So we have two layers and three kind of typical roles. The two layer is we have a blockchain, right? It's a typical substrate-based blockchain, but the computation doesn't happen on our on-chain layer. It's happening in the off-chain layer. The reason why we are having a blockchain is that we think this is the best way to maximum thousands or even couple of thousands off-chain computation nodes. And the three key roles is that who going to produce your blocks, and who are the key managements of this off-chain computation node, and who is the group who actually executed these off-chain programs. So this is kind of our structure. But I would say, based on our experience, after exploring use case over years, we think the key feature that people really need is still kind of partial confidentiality. They don't need 100% privacy for everything, but partial confidentiality and high performance. And there also something you can barely do on EVM environment, which is the HT requires, or let's say the capability to access internet or anything you want. So we feel like these are the key features that have demand in the market, and we adopt our product to satisfy that demand. Yeah. So
I think one thing before I talk about myself, one thing I do like about Phala is you have this internet oracle. So if you have sort of verifiable computation, accessing the rest of the internet is very, very important. But I think maybe another slightly hot take that I have is, like Alex said, if the T is broken, then all you lose is privacy. But on my own sort of little mind map, I have some super high risk but very high reward points. These are use cases where, for example, custody, so contracts with custody. If the T breaks, then everything's broken. You do have the infinite mint kind of situation there, rather than just it being a loss of privacy. And I'm not sure how we differentiate ourselves, just apart from, well, we do EVM. You know, it's like we've gone down the route. I love Rust, I love WASM. I've used the secret stack myself, and but a lot of people, there's a lot of inertia with the Solidity stack that comes along with this. And if we're just trying to offer this tech to the widest number of people as possible, then Solidity is just one of those things that we have to do to get market fit and get it in the right hands, you know?
Thank you very much. Cool, thanks for the overview on that. So when we talk a bit more about the product, actually what's on top of your chains, can you explain more what kind of products the TEs enable? Maybe also talk about what you have built on your own in the team internally, what you are pushing through grants or like people that come inbound into your ecosystem to build on top, and why do they really need TEs? Why they cannot build it somewhere else?
Let's start from that side.
Yeah, please.
Just for the,
That's fair.
Oh,
Thank
great.
you.
easier.
Yeah, so we have the ecosystem grant program, the same as everyone does. So because this is a new area, we have to kind of incentivize people to find the next interesting sort of utility case. And for me personally, I've got like 2 areas of interest. One is, or 3 areas. One is account abstraction. So being able to have programmable control over the management of keys that you can't necessarily do with MPC protocols. So we're not going to get into like the nitty-gritty, but pluggable systems with different levels of privacy. Like I built a voting system to take the spicy opinions of verifiable DAO members, where you might want to not show them, you know, exactly who you are, but we have an ad hoc system where you can just go, here we go, I'm going to create a poll, we're going to do a cross-chain proof that you really are a member of the DAO. And like for me personally, I'm really looking at intents with custody. So there are ways where you can have cryptographic protocols shortcut by having a trusted party in the middle there. I think smart contracts are a really good fit for that because you can have the honest assumption, and there is an honest participant assumption, which you can't necessarily have with other protocols.
Thank you. Yeah. I promise I'm not like playing sneaky here, but I'm going to share some thoughts like how like our team are trying to explore what kind of ideas is our interest. So the first direction is we definitely keep tracking and looking to the ZK-based use cases. We think we have a very dirty mod, like whatever ZK can do, we can do it, and we can do it faster. So this is our first kind of explore ideas direction. Second one is we compare these Web2 and Web3 and trying to find out, okay, what are the ideas? Is something you can do in Web2, but you can barely do in Web3. And we think that is also our kind of low-hanging fruit. We want to explore ideas there. And but for now, our like most mutual product already alive yet is a Fed contract, and it's a programmable platform that you can build your coprocessor for blockchains. And what is coprocessor? Andrew actually mentioned that before, but it's a concept, it's a product concept that like how you can use something else to help your smart contract either running faster or be more flexible or access rich data. So that's the concept of coprocessor. So the unique part of Phala network is that we don't think like people will really deploy their smart contract on our network. We prefer if you can run your business 100% on Ethereum, just do it. Right? If you can run your business on Polygon, just do it. But whenever you feel there's some limitations for your idea, for the features in your apps, you can try to use coprocessor. Use it together with your smart contract, and we can bring you the magic moment. So this is kind of like our mental thoughts on what use cases we want to have.
Okay, so Secret actually has the benefit of having been running for over 3 years now, and we actually have a very rich ecosystem of projects, and we have projects that any other blockchain ecosystem would have. So we have DeFi. Shade is the leading DeFi protocol And it has all the features that other protocols on Ethereum would have, right? It has lending, and it has swaps, and stablecoin, kind of a one-stop shop, with one difference, that everything is confidential, right? We have NFT marketplaces like Stash, which is also very similar in a way to what OpenSea would do, or Rarible, or others, but only with a twist that the content of the NFT is confidential and only the owner can see the content, right? We have messaging apps like Alter and others, and a lot of other projects. Now, so in a way, when we're talking in general about what a confidential blockchain can run or host, we can say that it can run the same kind of apps that a non-confidential blockchain has, only with confidentiality built into them, and there are a lot of benefits, right? A shade transaction, a swap on shade cannot be front-run at all, because nobody knows what the person is swapping, right? So one more application, by the way, I didn't mention, are confidential tokens. So we have our own version of ERC20, it's called SNP20, and these tokens are just confidential. You cannot know who owns what and how much, and so on. So a wide range of apps and potential apps, and that applies to Oasis, I think, in the same way. So apps will be built in all kinds of things. But I also want to connect to what Marvin just said about having developers on other chains using confidential computing. And actually, a lot of our strategy is based on exporting our confidential computing capabilities to EVM, later on to Solana and other ecosystems, and actually letting developers out there to build things like confidential voting, Harry mentioned, confidential limit orders, confidential NFTs, and so on, without actually trying to drag, exactly like Marvin said, without having to drag them to our platform, the full app, but just the specific features that require privacy. And we think that a combination of native apps on our chain with going out there to others and letting them do, say, confidential voting or anything else makes perfect sense. And that's, I think, where the world is going. And I think that today we are looking at emergence of this confidential execution layer, a confidential execution module in this modular architecture, which several providers will be able to fulfill, right? So somebody, again, a DAO running on Polygon might want to implement confidential voting, and it might have several options, right? So it might use Oasis, it might use Secret, but these are examples of where every chain kind of has a specialization, a narrow specialization, and that's where it's good at, and that's why it is used. And I think that's the way Web3 will be going, right? Everyone specializing in a narrow area of functionality and exporting it everywhere else.
See, now it's working better.
Yeah, I know. And with 2 or 3 mics, it would be working more better. Thank you so much, Alex. I would like to follow up on this point a little more. You already mentioned that developers can pick and choose the experts in specific privacy or the chains for specific actions that they want to execute. But if we think beyond what we just do here today on stage to discuss between all of you guys, what we can actually, how TE is being used, what kind of, how could we further join our forces to actually empower joint use cases, like the DePIN or the DePINs that were based on TE? What could we do to empower, to create a joint use case for several networks like you guys provide? Maybe Marvin wants to start.
You want to start? Okay.
Okay. So I think there are, we actually have a very interesting use case that we just announced, a partnership with All Be Money, which is an account abstraction wallet. And they actually plan to build an app chain on Secret, and right now they're just running as a smart contract or a set of smart contracts in Secret. So what they're doing is they're storing part of the user's key for the wallet on Secret as you know, just one out of 3. And potentially in the future, and again, I'm looking at here because Secret and Oasis are kind of similar. So I see projects that are using, say, both just for extra security, right? You could store one part in Secret, one part on Oasis, and that makes perfect sense. It just increases the security, right? So that's like a combination. We can find a combination of even 2 seemingly competing or two projects that are using more or less you know, the same technology stack. But if we're talking about, say, an MPC chain and a TE chain, then there are many more use cases. Or a TE and an FHE, so let's say Secret and Phoenix, like potential use cases can be differential privacy, right? So FHE is much more expensive, but presumably much more secure, right? Because it's all math-based. So if we're talking about the same wallet use case, right? So one part of the key can be stored in an FHE chain, but that might be needed only for signing transactions over $1 million. And you know, smaller transactions can just do just fine with Secret signature or TE signature for that matter. So I think there are use cases where definitely we can use all the 4 different privacy technologies, zero knowledge and TE and FHE and MPC together. But there are also use cases for using the same several instances of the same technology together to improve security. So I think, and that's where actually we're looking at with the confidential computing constellation of bringing different projects together to build enhanced or more secure products.
Yeah, I think the more complexity level of the future that DeFi or the gaming is, then the more possible we face into a more joint use case. Like decentralized application is, you know, much beyond just a smart contract. It's a combination of front end, back end, you know, encryptions, wallets, RPC, attestation, and smart contracts. So, for example, Uniswap is a like typical joint use case with maybe a dozen layer tools, and Fleek, you know, as front end, as snapshot, as the voting governance tools. So yeah, and this is a trend. And if you see like how you know, DApps just grows in investor space, it originally, you know, come from like very simple transfer, you know, user experience into today. There are a lot of intent-centric ideas. So I think yeah, it's becoming more and more complex. And for us, we think we only need to do several jobs in a pretty good quality to deliver good user experience to the target use cases. And we just want to do several things there. You know, like we don't want to cover everything. So I think whenever we have some best, you know, practice, and Oasis 10, you know, secret networks can provide some component that is high quality, then developers and users will just naturally combine us together and then use it. Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's my thinking.
So one thing that keeps popping up for me is with trusted execution and with contracts that have secrets, you can to a certain extent have like instant revelation. So if you want like instant transactions, if you reveal a secret now, it doesn't take any time at all to communicate. So you don't have to wait for the blockchains to come to a consensus and then mine a block. If you're looking at like cooperation between multiple different trusted parties, does that mean that we can go insanely fast? That we don't necessarily have to wait for blocks to be mined? If you're having these trust execution environments talking to each other, Of course, you have to be wary of the kind of protocols that you put on top of that. But like another case for sort of collaboration between the different protocols is, well, we can have bridges without the rest of the infrastructure. We can have bidirectional communication. We can have sort of broadcasting of information with a proof of authority, which is the contract in the secret enclave. And I think that that's like really underutilized. So that there's a lot of stuff to explore there with what can we do when the swap's instant. You don't really need a quorum. It's just a peer-to-peer negotiation of how to hand a secret from one person to another without any sort of trusted. Well, it is a trusted third party, but it's an honest sort of neutral third party, right? And yeah, I think there's a lot to explore there with how far can we push this. See, I'm looking at the high risk, high reward quadrant. So I really want to see, okay, let's, if we fully trust these, and it would be lovely to have an ecosystem where every single chain ran in a trusted enclave of some kind, because then I can do so much more with so little additional infrastructure. So that's what I'm looking at with collaboration and the industry as a whole.
Great, thank you so much. I think this was a great closing remark to say, okay, to start to think further. And Marvin, you also mentioned what is possible. Alex, you brought us some specific ideas. So maybe let's use this evening today to discuss further between the projects. And if you guys have questions how to build on each of these networks, please reach out. And thank you so much for your input.